Hey, John. Uh, yes, I am back with another video for you. I know I've been a little bit on a hiatus, but we got some new things in store. I should say I'll make a whole separate video about all that a little bit later, kind of like um, you know what I've been going through. Why the reason for the break, what new things I want to do with the channel. I am going to start posting more consistent videos again. So that's always nice. And then, we're gonna do like all the different content pieces, the JTS, the nerdology, all that stuff. Definitely want to do more of that. But this is gonna be more of a traditional Hey Jai episode. I'm trying to get the mic right because I actually recorded this before. Take y'all behind the fourth wall. I actually recorded this before, and it was on a slightly different topic, and I went back and did it, and the mic was cutting in and out. So hopefully it's not the same. This is just gonna be a rough one to try to get out, but just gotta go ahead and rip the band-aid off, just get back into it. So yeah, let's get into it. So originally, what I wanted to do was a video kind of centering around the theme of empathy. But as I kind of got to talking and how I come up with these videos, yeah, I like do a little bit of research, try to get like proper definitions, little graphics and things that I want to add, which you'll see like in the final cut. But I do it by talking to myself. Everybody does it at some point or another. And as I kind of talk my thoughts out, I realized that it's a lot less about empathy and more so about community, because I guess the part of empathy that I was leaning more towards the theme of was community, coming together, a society, what's the government, being selfless, all those things. So I'm going to get into all those things, but I guess, let's start with the word of the day, which is empathy. Hopefully I spelled that right. So Webster describes empathy, and you're going to see this on the screen, as the action of understanding, being aware of, being sensitive to, and vicariously experiencing the feelings, thoughts, and experience of another. And so I feel like as humans, uh, we kind of experience empathy, or rather, we get it kind of confused with sympathy. Sympathy is more so showing concern, but a lot of times we can experience empathy, but only with a small community, right? In the grand scheme of things. So if you're from a certain economic class, you can relate to that. If you're from a certain area, you can relate to that. You'll be empathetic towards that. If you had similar tragedy, we have a lot of um, geographical empathy. We have a lot of ethnic empathy, a lot of racial empathy, right? Gender empathy. Um, you know, but I think that what we've kind of been lacking, um, especially in the world today in times like these, is just general human empathy of things that are going on. We typically don't relate or care about what's going on amongst other people um, until it hits your front door, right? So if you look at, at the time of this recording, right, I just found out that Oracle laid off 30,000 people. A lot of those people found out via email at like 6 in the morning. If you've ever lost a job before, been fired, laid off, or anything like that, you have a sense of empathy towards that. But even the people that don't, just the fact of knowing what it's like to think, where am I going to get my income from? To know that you have expenses and bills and you got to take care of your family and things like that. Like there should be some sort of human empathy, for all those people, right? And I think that empathy is the thing that kind of connects all of us. You know, humans weren't meant to be alone. We weren't meant to be isolated creatures. We were meant to commune. Or I'll say we've definitely developed into that as we've gotten into a society, right? Not just hunter gatherers, as we've gotten away from that and we've gotten more into relying on each other. living in society, and that kind of goes into community. So, what is the role of a society? To me, I think the role of a society is to be able to lean on others for things that we might lack, um, to grow together for the expansion of the human race, for the advancement of the human race, to provide things amongst each other that one might not have. You may not be the strongest, but you might be smarter here. You may not have this particular set of skills, but you might have skills elsewhere. You may not have this particular set of knowledge, but you can teach others, right? And I think that, in a sense, that we all kind of create little micro societies amongst each other. If you look no further than your friend group, 9 out of 10, your friend group, everybody's going to have different jobs. They're going to look different. They're going to have different thoughts. They're going to have different relationship statuses. They're going to have different familial statuses. They're going to give you different insights into what you have. And I think that you all come together, even if it's just for the simple goal of enjoyment, right? But each of those experiences in your friend group, in your micro society, leads to the overall goal and achievement of enjoyment, leads to your individual success, right? Because you'll have the knowledge of somebody that you didn't have. If you have a friend that's a doctor at some point or another, if you know anybody that works in the medical field, or if you're friends with anybody, got family members, anybody that works in the medical field, at some point they're going to drop that shit in conversation. They're going to drop that knowledge to you. It's going to be something that's simple. My aunt's favorite thing is whenever you're choking, put your hands up because it clears your it clears your pathways or your air, whatever. Right? I don't know. I'm not. Don't fact check me on that. Right? But just that little bit of knowledge. Okay, now you got something just kind of like in the back of the head. So like the next time you chucking by yourself, just instinctively you're just gonna throw your hands up, right? And it's just little things like that that you get from your micro society. And then if you want to go into the larger view of society, right? You're not going out there and paving a road. Somebody had to go do that. You don't know how to go build a car. Somebody went and built your car for you, right? But your contribution is still just as valuable, even something as simple as paying your taxes, right? But I feel that the overall mindset and mentality of everyone has gotten to a point of selfishness, to where everybody's more so worried about themselves, and then they might stretch out to their nuclear family, maybe to their friend group. And while logically, I can't say that that's wrong. I think that it can end up having some long-term effects by having a lack of community. Um, and I think community itself is selfless, but I think a lot of people operate out of a selfish mindset, almost a survivalist mindset to an extent. And you got to think, at what point is that survival going to greed, right? Going to being judgmental, right? Again, I'm not want to sound preachy from my high horse because I know it's a lot more that I could be doing. But just certain mentalities of people that I think that we don't really care or become empathetic. We don't try to relate or understand the feelings of others or what they're going through or why they're doing certain things until it becomes things like tragedy, uh, or until it's things that hit our front doorstep. In February of this year, U.S. launched a missile strike on Iran, killed over 100 children. I feel like that a lot of people weren't as empathetic. Of course, you had the people that had, the outrage because of their personal thoughts against the administration currently, right? You had the people that are always anti-war. But I feel like just as humans, it's like, bruh, regardless of what's going on, which at the time, at least to our knowledge, again, correct me if I'm wrong, nothing was as important for you to launch a strike at a school, in an area killing 100 children. Like, I don't care what it was to get. I don't care if it was to get oil. I don't care if it was deliberation or and till it was retaliation. First thing that went through my heart was like, dang, children just going to school passed away, and that was just I don't know, that kind of really sparked the whole topic for me. Again, this is a video I've been sitting on for a while now, right? Um, just from a human perspective, you know, wars have been fought through human history for various reasons. Some reasonable, some unreasonable, some retaliatory. I think that's a word. But I think that we should all take a moment to pause that nobody would like for what happened to happen. The victims of what happened to happen, because that's what those people were. They were victims. They weren't soldiers. They didn't sign up for it, right? And part of having a certain level of empathy, part of being selfless in society, part of building a community, not just amongst your social circle or amongst your proximity, but just just as a human itself, a global community. I think part of that comes with being aware, being socially aware, being politically aware, um, things of that nature. A lot of people didn't want to become politically aware of what's going on with Iran until the gas prices jumped up to $4 a gallon on average. On average, I know some people paying 5. I think that it shouldn't take a tragedy or it shouldn't take something to hit home for you to start opening up and understanding, because I feel like that it wasn't always the case. I don't think that we would have gotten here just as a society, as a global society, if that was always the case. People had to come together. It wasn't just one person just having these grandiose ideas and just building all the infrastructure and things that we have today in society. It wasn't just one person looking for money or greed. A lot of times those things didn't come out of survival. But I think that we're at a point now to where it shouldn't take a survival incident. It shouldn't take a tragedy. It shouldn't take something as necessary or as devastating as movement. It shouldn't take a fight for human rights. All those things that we see people do actually come together. I feel like that we could have preemptively, excuse the camera shaking, we could have preemptively avoided had we have had the mindset of coming together early. Had we have had a selfless mindset um, early on, right? It could be something as simple as, you know, let me back up. I think that a lot of the things that we put out into the world, they come back to us, right? Not necessarily just as a one for one karma type of thing, but I do think that energy is always transferred, and the energy that you put out is going to come back to you. Frequencies, right? And I think that kind of starts with opening yourself up to not just worrying about, okay, I'm going to make sure that I have mine. What can I do for something that's small? What can I make sure that my family is straight? What can I make sure that my neighborhood is straight? Even people that you don't know, that you don't have any blood ties to, right? If you live in a neighborhood and you see the single parents working a lot of jobs and their kid is, at home alone after school or something like that, invite that kid over to play with your kid. Something simple like that, right? Just something to take a little bit of stressor off, right? You see, they're cutting fundings in the school, or things with the teachers. Go out and volunteer, uh, donate some school supplies, little things like that. It's gonna build up, that little selfless act. It can have a trickle down effect. That little kid can remember that kindness, and that's something that's taken off their plate, and they can go to school, and then who knows what they can become from that, just from those little acts of kindness, right? And I do think that being selfless or community oriented, rather, it helps your development as well, right? You know, everybody has individual goals, everybody has individual things that they try to achieve, but I think that you can go further if you go there with others, right? If you can learn from other people, if you can have other people help you along in areas that you think that you might lack, um, you can learn new things, and all that comes from community. But to build community, it comes from being selfless. To be selfless is the key to empathy. So all of it kind of coincides together. It sounds like I'm rambling. I swear I thought about it. That's why I thought this out before. I'm not gonna say my job, but the nature of my job, um, we are judged on a particular goal, and we're judged on goal as individuals and as a team. Uh, if as an individual, you can achieve your goal, you can exceed your goal within the time frame. You can kind of just sit back and chill, wait till the next time frame goes around. But just because you achieve your goal doesn't necessarily mean the team is going to achieve theirs. So then you have to think like, okay, am I going to sacrifice my time, my leisure, or things like that, or am I going to put forth more to help the team? And I was just blessed to be around people who definitely put forth that team first mentality, right? Um, to help us achieve the goal. But it's something as small as that, whereas there's no right or wrong answer with that, right? Because who am I to tell you that, hey, you can't be using that time to go do something else to advance your career, to advance your personal growth, or you can come and do this to help the overall team growth of it, right? Of course, making sure that you're straight. And in that, when helping the team, I think you might open yourself up to other things that can help your professional growth. Leadership would take notice of that. Okay, you went out your way to help the team. You went out your way to go above and beyond to help the team to achieve the goal this month that's being recognized. You assisted others in achieving the goal. All right. So I think like there are pros and cons, or not cons. There's not really cons to being selfless, but I think that there's no right or wrong answer to it. I think though that we should look at our landscape more of being a little more community oriented, of being a little bit more selfless, because I think that those things they can, like I said, have a trickle down effect. They can lead to more development. More development of individuals leads to more development of the grand scheme of things, the grand scope, right? And all that starts with just kind of understanding we're all in this world together. Whether it's whether we're aligned with race, gender, whether we're aligned with country of origin, things like that. At the end of the day, we all are humans, and I feel that it can start off small. You can start prioritizing yourself, your family, your community, your I don't want to say your race community. I mean, you can, start finding your tribe, start prioritizing your tribe, if you want. But I think just going a little selfless on a regular basis, start developing that habit of working with others, of doing for others, doing things that will help the many and not just worrying about the few. That doesn't mean that you have to sacrifice yourself. That means you have to be selfless to a fault. But I do think that developing more of a we mentality instead of a me mentality, I think is something that's been lost over the past couple of years, and I think that it's something that is going to help us in the long run if we do actually develop that. Right? I was watching the Joe Budden podcast, and well, a clip from this particular episode, and they were just talking about capitalism, being the ethical billionaire, et cetera, et cetera, right? People have those thoughts all the time. Personally, I don't think that capitalism itself is bad. I think the way America does it is bad. I think the way America does it is dangerous. It's always guaranteed to have a loser, and it's always to the point of taking advantage of someone. But I do think that in on itself, the spirit of capitalism of that, hey, if you have something that's of a certain value and people are willing to offer up for that value, whether that's a skill, whether that's a trade, whether that's a product, go for it, right? But I do think that the worst thing that came out of capitalism, or at least American capitalism, is the ability that you have to operate as such an individual, and that you know it's a way out of greed, right? As long as I'm straight, I don't really care about anybody else. As long as I can circumvent my taxes, or I get these breaks, or as long as my family's straight, as long as I got my millions and billions and trillions, hey, everybody else can do it. You just gotta work as hard as me. You gotta hustle as hard as me. Well, no, that's not real life. There are certain things that you just can't get off of purely hard work. There are plenty of people that work hard their entire life. There are plenty of people that work hard for generations, families that work hard for generations that just don't achieve some of the benefits and blessings that do come out of whether it's billionaires, trillionaires, and I don't agree that $1 billion is the set number of like billionaires shouldn't exist. I do think though there's a certain level of billion. Like there's no way that somebody like Elon Musk or like Jeff Bezos should have the amount of money that they have, and there's so many people who are starving in what's considered a first world country. There are people that have to work two or three jobs to keep the lights on. There are people that can't have affordable places to live, and these are people that aren't being taxed, so their money isn't even going into the government infrastructure, which is really the role of a government, is to help the people that can't necessarily do for themselves, right? Like I said, you're not the one that paved that road. If you tax people properly, then you don't have to overtax others, and so on and so forth. The trickle down effect. And I think that some of the greed of American capitalism is a big reason behind that. However, those people aren't as community oriented, but they've also tricked people who are never going to touch that amount of money into defending the system because they believe that they have it. They believe that they can get there. And I'm not here to say that, oh, no, you can't get there. I'm not about to be a dream killer or nothing like that. But I think that the way that they did it, the way that others did it to accumulate a mass amount of wealth, um, I don't know. It's just something that's wrong about that. Like me personally, I don't think I'll be able to have X amount of money. I don't think I can comfortably be the richest person in the world with all the problems that go on in the world. That's just me, right? And I wouldn't want to mislead people into thinking that they have to selfishly accumulate X amount of wealth to only live a good life. I'm not telling you not to make your money. I'm not telling you not to hustle, try to go be rich or anything like that. But I'm also telling you, remember what it's like whenever you're not. Remember what, the people that surround you that won't have the opportunity that you would have, right? It's more than just effort. It's more than just drive. It's more than just a hustle, right? It's more than just a good idea. It's a lot of luck. It's a lot of luck. It is. It's a lot of luck. It's a lot of favors. It's a lot of blessings. Um, that allowed a lot of these people to be in a position. And some of them, it's not even none of that. Some of them did it dirty. Some of them stole. What's my boy from Facebook? Zuckerberg. He stole an idea. Elon Musk, his family is Nazis, and they got their money from apartheid, and it was a good jumping point off of it. Some of the richest people that came from America, their families were benefactors of slavery, which is like so. A lot of these uber rich people, they're tricking you into thinking that you can hard work your way out of there, right? Or that you can entertain your way into a certain class of wealth or things like that. And I would only say to that is that go try to make as much money as you can. Go take advantage of free market enterprise, but also don't forget your community. Don't forget what it's like to be on the other side of it. Don't take advantage of those. Don't step on others to get to where you need to get to. I feel like that coming together can lead people to get to the opportunities that they want. You know, helping others, they can lead to, you might find out some information, you might find out a new strategy, you might be stuck in one place, you might get to another because of it. You know, just because somebody isn't in the circumstance that you want to be in yet doesn't mean that you can't learn from them, doesn't mean that they should be shunned, doesn't mean that you should turn your back on them, right? Doesn't mean that you shouldn't reach back out and help them in an actual tangible way outside of just telling them to, hey, go invest and go hustle. No, that's not the only way to do things. You actually have to feed back. You actually have to give back into it, right? At this point, I'm just getting a little preachy. But like I said, man, take the little things day by day. Try to be a little bit more community oriented. You know, have empathy. Have empathy. Remember what it's like to be a human. Remember what it's like to, even if you've never been in that bad of a circumstance, feel for people who are in a worse circumstance than you. Feel for people who are in a horrible place than you. Feel for the person that did lose their job. Feel for the person that's struggling to pay their bills, right? Next time that you go and make a decision, do something polite for somebody. Go be a little selfless. Go take a Saturday to go volunteer. Go anything. Go offer some knowledge. If I just said 30,000 people got laid off from Oracle, if you know somebody that's hiring, go repost a job link on LinkedIn, right? Small things like that, right? They can create the habit of being selfless. And I think that spreads. And then once that spreads, it's going to become the norm. And I think once that becomes the norm again, I think that a lot of problems that we're going through in the world itself are going to, cease to exist. Granted, probably going to be a whole set of new problems that come after that. But that's just something that's been on my mind as of late right now. I think it's a mentality um, that's just been plaguing our current society, is a me first society, a selfish society, right? Um, One of my, I don't want to say favorite quotes, but something that I hear a lot that I kind of had to unlearn was that the game is to be sold, not told. And I think we got to get out of that mentality. I think we should take the game because then now we can analyze, we can analyze, we can deconstruct, we can share, we can use it to uplift, and then you might find somebody that might take your game and then remix it into something else. So yeah, those are just my thoughts. It's just a quick little ramble. First video back. My video is gonna be a lot more structured after this, but I just had to get this one out because it was something that was just really bothering me. Um, you know, and I think that it all just kind of stems from being empathetic, having that feeling, of others. Whether you're in that position or not, I think having that feel for others can lead to some great things. And I think that if we get there before tragedy strikes, I think that a lot of tragedy would be prevented because we're already looking for each other as a community, as a group, as one race of people. So yeah, you see the ticker at the bottom. Subscribe to the channel. Follow Instagram _IMS Studios. We'll be consistently bringing you videos. That's me. So see you.